I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our city attorney has joined us also by video and by Zoom. And we have Kayla from our outside audit firm is also attending remotely. So that's all of us. So let's go ahead and get started with staff reports. City engineer.
Wait, I would like to offer a prayer.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead, Carrie.
Thank you. Our eternal Father in heaven, we bow our heads and we express gratitude for the opportunity we have of meeting tonight. We're grateful to live in a world where we can meet remotely and keep ourselves and our families healthy. We're grateful for Thy Spirit to guide us in the decisions we make. We pray that we can be mindful of the citizens of Providence as we meet, and we can do the things that will be in the best interest of as many people as possible. Heavenly Father, we pray for clarity, and we pray that the leaders of our country and our community will be guided in their decisions as we go through an unprecedented time in history. We pray for peace and safety. We offer this prayer in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thanks, Carrie. Okay. Councilwoman Eck has arrived, so all 5 of us are present, either physically or remotely. Let's go ahead and get started. Our city engineer is not here. Our city attorney is here. Public Works Director is here. Our Administrative Services Director is here. Who wants to start? Rob, you want to give us an update?
All that I have to discuss is on the agenda for a particular item. So I don't know if you want to just wait for that particular item, go over the award or not of awarding that bid for the Spring Creek West crossing. Other than that, Public Works is doing fine. Our water system's holding firm even with the earthquake this morning, so we didn't have a single leak, and all's well when it comes to the public utilities that we manage. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to field any. Anyone?
Council, any questions of Rob? I don't see any hands raised.
Wait for him to push the mute button, maybe.
Everybody's muted. Okay.
Okay, thank
We'll
you.
cover the bids when we get to that agenda item. Thanks, Rob. Scarlett?
Well, I apologize for jeans and a t-shirt. I wasn't planning on actually being in the room here, but, and I will get you a written report out. We've been working to make us as social distance compliant as we can. We've decided not to do the Easter activity that we had planned for the 11th. Felt like by the time we started advertising, we may not be able to get the turnout, even if we couldn't even hold it. It's just too iffy. So recreation is kind of on hold until further notice. We have not started refunding yet. We'll wait till the end of next week and decide if we're going to be able to either delay the programs or cancel. And if we cancel, we will refund money for those recreation programs. We are allowing employees to alter their schedule if they need to. If they can work from home, we are going to allow that. My desktop is set up so that I can do remote desktop from home. So I've been able to work part of the day from home and then come in when it's time to sign papers or do physical things that I have to be in the office for. We've all given that opportunity to April to be able to utilize the programs she works with or internet-based programs. She's actually been in the office more though, so we are working with all of our employees to try and get through this strange time. So, any questions? Did I forget anything?
No, you're good.
All right,
Besides you, who's working remotely?
just me at this point in time. No one else has taken us up on it, so.
It's a good test case for
Yeah.
to start.
That's actually kind of what we were doing, is we wanted to test it with me. If it works out well, then we'll set it up so we can have, because if things really were to get much more, I mean, they're serious right now, but if things continue to escalate and get more serious, there's probably 4 or 5 others in the office that would, maybe 6, that would need to consider distancing a little more than just the 6 feet. So we'll test it this week with me, and if we feel like it works well, we'll have Scott, who is our IT person, set us up so that we can have multiple people. The only drawback is you could shut your workstation off, your physical workstation remotely, but you can't turn it on remotely. So you have to be really careful when you shut your computer down that you don't turn your physical workstation off. Other than that, it's working quite well, actually.
Thank you.
Chad?
Yes.
You're up. Do you have anything to update us on?
I don't have anything specific updating for you.
Okay.
Does the council have any questions for me?
Just a quick question. Are we going to have an executive session tonight? Is that taking place?
We can.
I was mainly asked about the 100 South
Sure.
issue. If that was good, if that was going to be discussed in executive session.
We can discuss that.
We certainly can have an executive session. Is my sound okay? Can you hear me?
You sound just fine.
I can. Yeah.
We certainly can have an executive session tonight if you would like me to report as far as legally is going.
Okay, we'll do that.
Is that up to you, Mayor? Yeah.
No, we're fine. We'll do that. Then we'll have Ryan update you on where we're at with that. So, Ryan and I and Scarlett, and Rob have had daily discussions. All of this. Okay. All right. Let's move on to approval of the minutes. Providence City Council will consider for approval the minutes of February 19th. Hope you've all had a chance to go through the minutes. Any comments, corrections, changes?
Mayor,
Yes.
so Councilwoman Kirk contacted me today about a change, actually 2 changes in the minutes that she requested, and those are on lines 274 to 276 and 288 through 290. I made the changes that she requested. If you'd like me to read them, I can.
Announce those numbers again.
274 through 276. Oh, excuse me, actually, these might be a little bit wrong because I think I changed the lines a little bit as I made her suggestion. So, but I think it was 271 was where it was before, and then 287. So in 271, she was talking about, let's see. She was talking about the objectives that were marked with an X in the 5 to 15 year column. instead of in the 1 to 5 year column. And that's what she was concerned about. So I fixed that.
And originally, it was line 274.
Okay, thanks. And then the other one was, let's see,
Line 287.
287. And let's see,
So what has it changed?
the change is that the last sentence of that bullet point that was at line 287, she wanted to correct to say that she felt that we can utilize existing incentives such as those given by the state.
I don't know what incentives there are given by the state.
Yeah, I think that reads better.
I think the only incentives that are available are through BRAG.
There are incentives with the Owing Walker Housing Trust Fund. There's also incentives through the Crown program and self-help housing, and also CDBG.
Okay, any other changes?
Line 19. On line 19,
119?
yes, it says New Dew Reservoir. Is that what that reservoir will be called, is Dew?
Rob, do you want to comment on that?
At that point, that is what it's being called currently.
Is Dew?
Yes,
New Dew Reservoir?
the New Dew Reservoir tank.
You can change it
Dew
to,
or Dew?
you can change it to Drew.
Spell it.
DEW.
Okay, New Dew, all right.
Okay, any other changes? Council, Jesse?
Question?
Sure.
Since it's Reb's Reservoir and has the same elevation as Reb's Reservoir, to simplify things, I don't know where that name come from, but it should almost be Reb's 2 or something that indicate we've got the same elevation, same type of reservoir, all we're doing is increasing storage. In my opinion.
There was a lot of early on discussion about naming this reservoir. I asked for a lot of input, a lot of direction. We didn't get anything much, and we were having a hard time with discussions and planning, and a lot of people calling it a lot of different things. It had 3 or 4 different variations that were going through the hoops of trying to design the tank and communicate about the tank. And the Dew tank is really more or less something that just happenstance, I guess, in a couple of meetings that we had, and so it just kind of took on from that point. And for ease of discussions and coming up with something to start putting on the documentation through the different data points and telemetry and all the different aspects of trying to orchestrate the designs of this tank, that's where that name just kind of took on in the events of needing it to be named something more consistent. I understand where you're coming from with the Reds too. That has one little drawback that came to mind early on was the fact that there's already currently 2 tanks at the Reds Reservoir location, and deciphering between the 3 different tanks, it just seems better to not try to associate the 2 since they're 2 totally different locations. But we were open to, it had, a lot of people called it the new tank, and the new tank has a lot of documentation referring to it as the new tank. And the new tank is kind of how that happenstance occurred, but we can definitely, it's not too far along to come up with a name if everybody would like to give us some direction on that.
I had forgot about the second tank as Reds. I do know there's two tanks as Reds, yes.
The new tank kind of works as far as ease, only being 3 letters. Kind of helps with labeling and such, but we can continue to change that up because there's nothing finalized when it comes to the plans have not been out to bid. The telemetry has not been worked up as far as getting labels for the RTU units and such. So it's not too late to change.
So is it, so, sorry, Brent, you said that you'd asked around and taken a lot of opinions, and I've never heard of this before. So,
You should
and
have.
maybe it's not anything the council needs to know about or hear about, but I was never asked, or we were never asked, hey, should we name it this or should we name it that?
I'm pretty sure you were on the council when I asked for any advice and input
I don't recall that.
earlier on.
I don't recall that, so I would say if, I don't know, it seems kind of like a really weird name to me. Is it like Mountain Dew?
Sure, and we'll build the mountain well right next to the new tank.
I like Mountain Dew. So does Rob.
I really don't care.
I have a really good memory, Rob. I have not ever heard that, so, I mean, it's been 2 years, so.
I think
Sorry.
the question came up, what are we gonna name it? And there wasn't an answer at the time, that's what I heard.
If that works for you, Rob, okay.
What, Mountain Dew?
Yeah, I think it's worth discussion, but I think it's outside the scope of approving the minutes.
Okay?
Okay.
We can discuss it more.
We can discuss it later. All right. All in favor of approving the minutes of February 19th? Signify by saying aye.
I think we need a motion, right?
We
Is
do.
there a motion?
There hasn't
We
been
have
a
a
motion.
motion?
I'll make a
From you,
motion
Josh?
that we approve the minutes from February 19th.
Motion
I'll
from
second the
Councilwoman
motion.
Eck, second from Councilman Paulson. Do I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Any nays? Passes. Okay, let's move on. We were planning to have a public meeting tonight. We've decided to cancel and reschedule that.
Mayor, I think you meant public hearing.
No public hearings, right? The public hearing is rescheduled. Not sure how many people we expected, but we've decided to reschedule. We have no citizens here who want to make a public comment, so we'll just move on. But we have our administrative items. Item number 1, auditor's report. Kayla Cornwell is on video with us here. Welcome back from last year, Kayla. Kayla usually walks us through the annual financial report and talks about, explains the financial statements and talks about any issues they may have discovered during the audit. Kayla, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you shall have a financial report. I emailed it out along with a couple of letters last month. We'll just dive right in. So we're going to start on page 1 of the report.
Everybody here?
This,
Can you
can
turn it
everyone
up?
hear okay?
Can you turn
Yes.
her up?
I'm not sure if I can. Let me see.
I'm gonna try and turn the volume up on our end, Kayla.
Okay.
We're maxed out here.
I'll
Okay,
scoot a
go
little
ahead.
closer. Maybe that will help.
A little bit better.
Okay. All right, so starting on our independent auditor's report, I'm going to draw your attention to the second page, the top paragraph, which is our opinion. It states that in our opinion, these financial statements present the position of the city as of June 30th, 2019. So that's what's known in an audit report as a clean or unclassified opinion. which is the highest rating that you can receive on an audit report. So to get into the meat of the report, we're going to start on page 18. The pages kind of 9 through 11 before that are the management discussion and analysis. I encourage you to read through that section. It's a very good summary of the financial statements and everything that went on during the year. Nothing that we're not going to cover, it's just a good summarized form. So read that through on your own. And start on page 18. So this is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. So that's your general fund and your capital projects fund. Balance sheet is kind of the snapshot in time showing the position of the city at the end. So we have at the top section, the city's assets, which are cash and receivables. So between your restricted and unrestricted cash in the general fund, you're just over 1.8 million, and then just over 2 million in the capital projects fund. We have the liabilities, not a huge amount to report here, just some standard accounts payable and accrued payroll, things that you have outstanding there at year end. And then the bottom third of the page, we show the fund balances for the city of the year. And you can see how those are restricted for different reasons based on the funding. So Class C roads, impact fees, and that type of thing. I do want to draw attention to the unassigned fund balance in the general fund. This amount is monitored by the state, and you're only allowed to accrue up to a certain amount, which is based on 25% of your revenue. So the maximum you have in that would be just over $1 million. So you're under that threshold, which is good to see. Part of that being because you made the decision to transfer some of those funds over into the capital projects fund at year end. So last year, I know we had a finding for that because that was too high, but you're good. You're underneath that balance for the state. Capital projects fund, everything looks good. The state doesn't impose a limit as to how much you can accrue there. So you're fine at that fund balance. Otherwise, both are positive fund balances, so that's good to see. Have you turn the page open? And we're still focusing on the governmental funds, so your general fund and capital projects. But this is showing the revenues and expenditures during the year. So our top half of the page, we have revenues, expenditures, and then other sources such as impact fees and transfers back and forth. I'll have to focus on the third line from the bottom, which is the net change in fund balance for the year. You can see in the general fund that we actually showed a bit of a loss, or we decreased the fund balance by just over 500,000. And the biggest reason for that is because we transferred those funds over from the general fund into capital projects. Otherwise, when we're looking at your operating revenues and expenditures, you brought in capital projects fund, just a little bit of interest, and then that transfer in. And you can see those positive fund balances there at the bottom of the page for the end of the year. I'll have you turn over a couple of pages now to page 22. And we will look at the same type of statement, but now we're focusing on the proprietary funds, or your water, your waste, and your stormwater funds. So here we have net position, which is like your balance sheet, showing all of your assets on the top half. So you can see all the positive cash balances there at the beginning or the end of the year, as well as some receivable balances. Then in the liability section, once again, not a whole lot in liability for you operating things at year end. And then one long-term liability, which we'll see in a little more detail in the notes. Then at the bottom, we have the position of each fund at the end of the year, all positive balances, and no restrictions on these funds like the general fund that we have to worry about. So we just like to see that they're all positive at year end. Have you turn the page again, and we will look at the revenues and the expenses for those same funds. So we have our operating income at the top, followed by our operating expenses. So right there in the middle of the page, you can see our net operating income and loss. All of the funds, except for the stormwater fund, ended in a positive position, and the stormwater fund was a very small loss that almost broke even. Then we have some non-operating income and expenses, which are impact fees and interest items. And then our capital contributions, which are things that developers bill put together and then give to the city to take over, so we show that as revenue as well. So third line from the bottom, for a change for the year in each fund. Again, all showing a positive position. I really like to see that, especially in the proprietary funds, because what that tells us is that basically your fees are high enough to cover your expenses in those funds. Because the idea behind these funds is that they function like a business, so you should be charging enough to cover all of your expenses, which in this case you have been. So that's good to see. Okay, as we turn the page over, we get into notes of the financial statements. I'm not going to go through these in a lot of detail. They're not very exciting. But I will just highlight a couple of items. If you'll 36, we have an input here that shows all of the capital assets. First, for the governmental activities. So these are your large items, your land, buildings, infrastructure, all of that we don't see on the governmental balance sheet. So that's what I would like to point it out here. So you can see the balances in those and what was put in during the year. Most of the items that were increased this year were infrastructure related, as well as a little bit that's still construction in progress at the end of the year. And if you turn the page over, we'll see the schedule for the business or proprietary funds, so all your utility funds as well. You can see the additions that we put into the year for water system and wastewater system, all those show up on this schedule here. Then I'll have you turn one more page in the notes, and this is showing in kind of the middle of the page the long-term debt that the city had at the end of the year. We just had the one water bond showing at the end of the year a balance of $324,000 remaining. No other items of long-term debt to report. And last item I want to point out on page 49. And this is always a good schedule to review. This is focused solely on the general fund. It's comparing revenue expenditures at year end to what you had budgeted for the year. Being in a positive position, you reported more revenue than you had budgeted for, and you spent less than you had budgeted for. So everything's positive there. If we do see some expenditures over budget, that is a finding we have to report to the state. So we're happy that we didn't have any of those that we had to report. So yeah, everything on that page is positive. The rest of the report are some schedules related to pensions, and then two of our reports related to internal controls and state compliance, and we did not have any findings on either internal controls or state compliance for this year. So everything's good there. So that's everything on the report. So I can go over any questions you have on the report, and then otherwise I'll just go over a couple items that we had on our management letter. Any questions on the report itself? Okay. So then our management letter, which would have been attached to your email as well. These are that we came across our audit that didn't arise to the level of a finding that needed to be the actual report, but still important that we felt we needed to bring it to your attention. So first one, I'm going to start with the franchise taxes. We discovered during the year that Comcast didn't have your correct address, so the franchise taxes weren't being received from the city. We just don't want to see you guys missing out on revenue that should be yours, so we just encourage to really focus on comparing your current year to the budget and to prior years as well, so that you can see if a hole like that appeared of something that you were missing. Next item is about accounts receivable. This is in the utility funds. There are a lot of items on there that were past due, significantly past due, and we just recommend researching those and keeping tabs on them so you're aware what's outstanding there and consensus collections or things like that, if need be, or write things off if they're incorrect. And then next item is in regards to balance sheet accounts. Typically they just kind of get looked over a little bit more than the income statement. You know, we really focus on the revenues and expenses, but it's good to monitor these balance sheet accounts as well, reconcile them on a monthly basis to make sure things aren't kind of hanging out in there that you're not aware of. There were a few balances at year end that had to be adjusted because they hadn't really been monitored as well as they could be. And then the last item on here is just in regards to the prior year finding, which was about your general fund balance. And like I stated earlier, you didn't have to report that this year. You transferred enough over to capital projects. But that's something just to keep in mind, to always make sure as you're getting closer to year end, to check that balance, make sure you're within the state limit and transfer money as you need to. So otherwise, good experience. Hopefully next year we can get the ball rolling a little earlier in the year so that we can get the report done on time and get things submitted to the state by December 31st. But otherwise, that concludes our report.
Josh?
Yeah, I've got several questions. I think some of them probably fall outside the scope of your role as an auditor, because I don't think you're necessarily keeping track of why this was spent or this was spent. I think you're just looking to make sure that the numbers are correct, right? And then they can be reconciled. This one may fall, so I do have some of those, and maybe we can talk about at council later. This one would, I think, fall within your scope. On page 8, maybe Rob knows, our stormwater cost, our expense went from $92,000 to $144,000. Did I hear you mention we have a significant outlay or something? That was a significant increase between last year and this year.
I can answer that question if you like. Kayla, do you want me to answer that one?
Oh, anybody who knows,
Okay.
anybody who knows, yeah,
That's fine. So at that point, there were additional engineering costs. So CRS engineering accounted for significant more in engineering fees in stormwater. I think it's about 25,000. So that would account for almost all of the difference is engineering fees from CRS.
Okay, that'd be about half. It's an increase about 50,000 or.
Yeah, I could go back and look, but as I pulled that up, I think one had sent that question, and I pulled that detail up and can see that the significant difference in stormwater is because of engineering.
Okay. The other two, I think I'll just hold for another budget discussion with the council sometime. I think it's part of things we need to talk about.
On that page 8, if I may interject a thought, just below that, in the little paragraph, it says government activities. Second line, grants received, it should probably be received. At least in my document, it says that.
You said page 8?
Oh, yes, I see.
Yes. Page 8, second last paragraph.
Where are we at on that page?
The second to last paragraph. It just doesn't have the R on it.
Page 8, the second paragraph from the bottom, the second line. Received is just missing the R.
Oh. Glad somebody reads the whole financial statement.
And can I ask a quick question? What page was it again that showed the money that is owed to us that we haven't been collecting, that's outstanding, and those things that you said to pay attention to? I read it in the initial report, but then you referred to it on a page. Am I wrong?
I'm sorry, I can't very well, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm looking for a reference to, Brian's going to show me. You said that there was outstanding, basically that people owe us money that we haven't collected, and that was something that we need to work on. So I was looking for where that was.
35.
And it can be found on a few different pages, but you can.
So it's $458,000 that people owe us?
That's usually what they owe at that point.
That's just, I don't understand that. And I'm not a numbers person, so help me out.
There are some that haven't been collected.
Why aren't we collecting?
We're working on that one at this point, but yes.
Because that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
How much did you say?
400 and something thousand?
458,000 on
So
that.
if you look on,
Yes.
if you look on page 22 of your report, accounts receivable is going
That's
to
just in the
show
business type
citizens
activity.
over utility usage.
That's just business type.
So the total for the 3 different utility funds is that 458,000. So that's page 22.
They were always receivable.
Right.
Okay.
The question about it
The
is,
question
how
about
much
it
is
is,
past
how
due?
much is past due that we're not collecting?
And
I
how-
remember reading that in the initial report, that was one of the findings, one of the concerns, was that we're not collecting the money that's owed to us. I'm assuming this is utility bills, right?
Those are utility.
And it
Correct.
literally is 400,000, or is that a different number?
that's total.
No, that's the total. At
That's
400
past due?
No,
Well, that's total due.
Total due.
That's total due.
Is
So
there
this doesn't
somewhere that
necessarily
shows
show
what's past due?
This doesn't, I don't,
it's not here.
There's not anywhere in the report that would show that. I have a schedule, and Scarlett or Ryan can pull up a schedule as well that would show the aging and how far things are out. I'm trying to pull it up here so I can give you a.
So the question is, how past due?
Well, I think,
When it gets past due, we shut the water off. The problem is the people that leave town.
and when they've left town, the other thing is, with Jesse here, he's been working on that. We've pulled him in to especially work on some of these ones. But a lot of it is interest and finance charges as it goes. So if we have one that's late and we haven't collected, we've got at this point we've contracted with a collection agency. We've put special effort on it from Jesse's side, and we are working to those issues to resolve them. It was an issue that it didn't have it as collected timely. So we agree with Kayla. We need to put a lot more special attention towards that, and we are. So, but yes, you're correct. It is a large amount.
okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Council? Any comments from the staff? Kayla, anything further?
No, that's all I.
Scarlett, we're not approving this tonight. It's just a discussion item.
We approve.
We are?
We would look to approve.
Okay.
Thank you, Kayla.
Yep, thank you.
Yes, thank you for your work. We appreciate your help. Thank you.
So this requires a motion. Okay. I need a motion to accept the financial report for fiscal year 2019 from the council. Need a motion to
I would
accept
make a
the,
motion. I would make a motion that we approve the budget for, or the financial report for 2019.
motion from Councilman Speth. Do I have a second?
Second,
Who was that?
Carrie.
Kirk.
Kirk.
Second from Councilwoman Kirk. Further discussion? All in favor of approving the financial report, the audit report for 2019?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. This is kind of awkward, isn't it? It's kind of hard to tell who's talking.
Well, and then Brent, just so that you know, you're sideways on the screen, so everyone else is looking at us straight up, and you're looking at us sideways. I like it.
Not sitting that way.
There we go.
The problem is, where it up, what if I put it that way?
Upside down.
Then I'm way upside down. Okay, I'm getting something done here. How's that?
Good.
Much better.
Okay, I just want to be straight up with the rest of the council.
Yeah, we weren't sure if you were taking a nap or not. Item number 2, let's go ahead and move on. Cache County Sheriff Report, Sheriff Chad Jensen will present the Cache County Sheriff's Office report.
I'm not sure where to look, whether I look at that, or if I look at you, or look at him. I'm not.
Just do a
Do a 360.
If you look at that, they can see your mug.
Well, I don't know if they want to see my mug. That might be the worst part of the whole meeting. All right, well, thank you for giving us a few minutes on your agenda. Lieutenant and Archie and I, even though it's a hard time right now, we do actually enjoy coming out to all the cities and telling you guys what we're doing and what we're looking to, and looking for feedback back from all of you to see if we can do better and provide a better service than we're doing right now. Just to go over a couple of numbers real quick, is you've gotten the current contract, and we're not certainly looking to get that signed tonight. It's just for information and answer any questions or discussion items that might be with next year's contract that will start in July. There was a little bit of an increase this year, and we'll preference that a little bit. Is 4 years ago when I took office, I didn't do a lot of changing because I wanted to be confident in the numbers that we were providing to the cities. Not that the other ones are wrong, I just didn't totally understand a lot of the numbers. So now we have numbers that I understand, that I'm comfortable with, and I think the cities and stuff understand them and are comfortable with it. So what you'll see in the letter that was attached to the contract is Providence contracts are 1,498 hours a year. And you can look over and see how many hours were provided in those specific years. So what we're really trying to do is, there was two parts of the increase for this year. One is we've done some great things with our wages and our turnover and all those things. So there's a little bit of an increase just with the hourly rate that we charge. But we're also trying to creep a little bit closer to the hours of actual service that we're providing that's above and beyond what's already contracted for. So that's where the increase. So Providence, if it's a 10% increase just on the hours, it'll take it to 1,647 hours, but on average, Providence 3 years average is sitting at about 4,025 hours a year. And that's the number the Lieutenant Barch and I are working on right now to come up with a plan long term so we can address those numbers, because I would rather do it in little increments every year than just 2 years from now or 4 years from now come and say, well, now it's 4,000 hours. It'll never be up to that 4,000 hour mark. We know and we hope that we're always going to be over what we're doing on our contract hours. Because we want the cushion so we never short any community that we contract with. So we understand we're going to be over, but what we're looking at right now is the calls for service, the citations, putting a number to that to come up with a fair number for us and also a fair number for the communities as to what the specific service that the community needs to be. And that's what we'll get with all of you, and hopefully when some of this stuff clears up a little bit, we can actually get out and meet with people again and talk long-term plans with what the contract should look like so we can plan and our councils can plan. So that's the contract stuff. So moving forward, just a little heads up and compare the last couple of years. In your last contract year, which was 2018 through July 18 through June of 2019, we did 1,658 calls for service in Providence. And looking this year, your contract, which started on July 1st of 19 through March 1st, we've taken 1,285 calls for service. And if you just average that out by the months, if it stays the way it is, Providence will be at about 1,925 calls for service if the last 4 months are like the first 8 months.
For the whole year?
For the whole year. Correct. A couple of things we want to talk about. If we have any questions just on the contracting and hour piece, I can certainly discuss those and address those now before I move forward with what we're doing as an office. Some great things I think that are coming forward, and want to share that with everybody as well.
You mentioned turnover, and I've heard you talk about it before, but I want the council to hear what you said about turnover. You talked about it at the party.
Yeah, our biggest drawback right now, and a lot of it is the climate that we're in within law enforcement. I made a big statewide push this year, and I spent a lot of time on it, and actually got a legislature to pass a little piece of retirement bill, because there's problems all across the state. Right now, there's probably about 900 law enforcement jobs open across the state of Utah. Just in corrections alone, there's about 450. Let's just look at corrections, which would be the state prisons and all the jails. There is 200 holes open right now, then there are cadets in the academy to fill. And it's really almost the same percentage when you look at the patrol and criminal side of it. We're not even getting enough kids out of the academies to fill all the holes in law enforcement and public safety across the state. And I feel a little bit of a schmuck by running that bill. It's because we're sitting at 5. Which in our 5 now are just because we've got people hitting those retirement ages and they're leaving for retirement purposes. Before we did so much work with our wages and did a lot of different things in my office, we were losing 15 to 20 a year. It was 3 years ago, we had 17 holes. We had 17 holes that at one point, and in our little valley, that is hard to overcome. With what we've done with our wages and some things we've changed at the office, we've been able to attract stealing from other agencies. We're getting people to jump ship and come work for us. We've basically hired the last entire 3 academy classes. We get the first pick of our local academy, and those are our first priority, is to keep those young kids who were born and raised in the valley a job in the valley, because they'll stay in the valley. And we missed out on that for a lot of years, but this year we're down about 4 or 5 right now, and they are all just due to retirements, which I feel really, really good about that.
So you had no turnover. The only losses you had were people that retired.
Yeah, and I don't look at those as turnover, because we're not losing. I mean, I would expect, we got an office of 178 people at all different ages and times in their career. I would expect, I can look at our organizational chart and I can tell you that we'll probably lose 5 to 10 people a year just through the retirement stages.
Is there a bubble? Do you have an age group? Do you have too many?
Yeah, there's a worry.
Too many old guys?
There's a worry in 2024.
There's a what?
I have a big worry with the year 23-24.
Retirements?
Because that's the year that we built the new facility, and we hired a whole bunch of people who are all going to hit their 20 years, and in 23 and 24, we could lose like 30 people. Now I'm hoping that they all stay, and I hope we can gradually work into those retirements, but I am concerned with.
You mean they're eligible?
They're eligible for retirement. Not that they're going to, but they're eligible for retirement in 23 and 24. So that I am worried about 2023, 24.
What would keep them around?
I think that the attitude at the office right now, the morale's in great shape, the wages are a lot better. Unless they have something great to go to, they've got a pretty good thing where they're at. And I'm hoping that some of them, and they're young too. We hired some of those kids at 21, 22, and maybe at 42, they got another 10 years in. Maybe they want to do the 30 year and get the maximum retirement that they can. And we do have a lot that are planning on that. I'm just saying, the worst case scenario, we could lose a lot of people in a matter of a couple of years. Cross our fingers.
What's the biggest obstacle to recruiting people who want to come here and work here in the valley?
I don't think we have an obstacle in the valley. I think the biggest obstacle is in public safety and law enforcement in general. I think there's been so much negative discussion about law enforcement. In the media, you hear it all over everywhere that law enforcement's a bunch of jackbooted thugs, and that's not what it is. Every profession has bad actors, and you get a couple of bad actors, it certainly gives, and our profession is very high profile. It doesn't take much to get 1 or 2 bad events in the entire country that gives all of law enforcement a black eye, and we're really feeling the effects of that. I think a lot of it is cultural right now, and it's, I think a lot of people today aren't looking for careers. They're looking for a job that they're happy with now, but they don't really they don't think twice about leaving tomorrow to go do a completely different career. They're not looking for those benefits that most of us looked at when we got into public service. And I don't know how we get past that threshold. I just don't know. It's going to take another shift in the culture to get over the benefit piece, how important the benefits can be. When you tell somebody today that you get a 25-year retirement, they're like I'm going to be here 25 years. And they'll be great employees the whole time they're here until they decide they don't want to be here anymore, and they'll bail. Oh, I thought that was Mike. I was going to have you go shut it off for me.
Mike, shut it off.
That's really our biggest thing now. And there's some positive sides for our valley. 2 years ago, we do hiring tests 3 times a year, just so we always have an active list to draw from. 2 years ago, we canceled 2 of the tests because we had 2 applicants for 15 positions. Last year was a little better. We had 1 test. Our maximum last year was 11 people that came and took our hiring test, and we're no different than any other agency in the valley. There's just not the interest to come test. We're testing for the first time this year. We had 52 applicants. Because of what's going on right now, we went through and picked out the best ones, and we kept it at 20 because we could separate rooms and keep them in groups of 10. And that's a huge thing for us. We've changed policy and changed county policy that we're able to do lateral transfers from other agencies where they don't have to go through the testing process, and we've taken some really good people from some agencies, which hasn't scored me a lot of points, but our agency is better for it. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and somebody's got to wear the milk bone underwear, and it's not us right now. And it's not going to be us either. So I feel great about where we're at with our retention. And congratulations to the ones who can move on and they can get that retirement age and go start something new. I mean, that's what we all got into this job for at some point, that you're going to move on, and we congratulate those ones who have made it work, and I hope they move on to something bigger, better, and greater.
So you have some new things.
New things coming up. That's a couple things. One of them I'm a little questionable right now, and I'll talk about that one. We'll see what the economy does with this whole natural or national disaster. But one thing that we are doing that's already in the budget is we're going to start a probation unit within the county at the sheriff's office. People we don't even know what that is, really. But really what probation is somebody goes to court and they get convicted of a crime. Depending on the crime class you are, you get put on probation, which you have restrictions through the court of certain things that you have to achieve before you're not on probation anymore. In 2015, the state passed a justice reinvestment, which basically took all the drug crimes and felonies, which those folks would have been on probation and parole with the state, with adult probation and parole, and made them all misdemeanors, and adult state probation can't manage misdemeanors. And then private probation came along, and they're a great service too, but they're a private company, and they weren't necessarily built to take these types of criminals, and they're convicted criminals, into private probation. So right now we've got a group, and I've done the math, there's about 1,100 folks who should be in with a AP&P, state probation. They're just out there doing their own thing, and they're not really being supervised by anybody. But if you look at our numbers in our jail, that's our recidivism rate. That's the people who keep coming back to jail over and over and over. We have more drug users. There's no incentive to not use drugs. There's no incentive to not do property crimes, to support your habits. So what we want to do with our probation is we want to capture that group who is really causing most of the grief in our valley and put them on probation with us. Our ultimate goal is to get, if every one of them could successfully graduate probation and not go back to jail, we would find that a huge success.
So are these people habitual offenders, and you're just going to track them?
Well, they're going to be on probation.
Are they actually on probation?
Some of them yes, and some of them no. Our goal is to get them on probation. If the judge orders that you have to have a job and you have to complete counseling and you have to do these things, we're going to hold their feet to the fire and do everything we can do to make them successful.
So are you taking the role that private probation used to?
No, private probation will still be there, but they'll do the lower level misdemeanors, the non-violent criminals that they've been dealing with. AP&P will still do the felony cases. What we want to do is get those groups that get that small group, and it's really a small group. 1,000 people is a small group in the probation world.
So are the people you've identified, or the court sentenced them to probation?
We're going to work with the judges. There's so many of them. I mean, I've got 5 guys that's going to be hooked to probation right now, and our caseload theoretically can be 300 would be great. 400 is probably a number we could work with. So what we're going to do is work with the district court judges and come up with the group that they think is the most critical, that have more intensive supervision than they're getting now. And we're just working with the judges right now. It may be the drug court folks, it might be the domestic violence folks, but what we want to do is not have a little mix mash of everything. We're not set up to do domestic violence, drug court, mental health court, all these other things. We want to focus on one group that's causing most of the problems and deal with those folks first. And as the probation and the project grows, then we can look at doing different types of probation. But we need to focus on one piece and to be successful. And it'll be whatever we can work out with all the district court judges, what they deem is the most pertinent. That's what we're going to focus on.
So some of them are not on probation, they're just habitual offenders that you want to track?
Correct. I mean, they get arrested, but they don't get on probation, or they get on years probation, but there's no sanctions for violating probation. We want to hold people's feet to the fire and help them be successful. And our goal is 25%, and that seems like a horrible goal. We would be leaders in the nation if we could be 25% successful with our probationers.
So the judges are on board with this because they don't want to keep seeing the same people back in their courtroom.
Yeah, they don't want to keep seeing them. We don't want victims to keep happening. We don't want our jail full of the same people. Our jail is always going to be open, whether the same person comes back once or 40 times. We don't want to see the same people back. And if we can get them out of the system and have them be successful, that's a great thing for the whole community.
How often do you, my kids, through their young men's and young women's group, did a tour of the jail, and I did it with them, and it was unbelievable. You do that all the time?
Not so much anymore.
I mean, I'm sure it stopped crime.
Well, it doesn't too much. You would think that. We do Project Reality with the high schools, where a group of inmates volunteer to come up and sit in front of high school kids and tell their story and take questions. You would think that would make an impact.
Still no.
Not so much. With the jail tour, my kids went through it too, and I worked there, and they hear me talk at home, and they were shocked at what they kind of saw.
I just remember thinking, I wish all the kids could do this jail tour. Maybe it would stop them from.
The unfortunate part with the jail, and I wish it would, the unfortunate part with the jail tours, in my kids' scout group was the last one that got to go through and actually be in the jail because one inmate decided to do something that wasn't completely appropriate.
So now they can't.
So now we do virtual tours. Now they got to sit in the classroom and kind of, it's not the same. Not the same at all. But any education we can do to the public is we want to do. I mean, we're open for business whether we have 2 inmates or 500. So if we can keep it at 2, that would be even better. So that's one thing that's for sure up and running, and our goal right now is to have that going on July 1st. This is a brand new program. Nobody else in the state really does what we're trying to do. So we are virtually starting it with zero knowledge on what we're doing. And we're working on policies and procedures and working with the judges to what cases we're going to take, picking the right people to be into those positions. So I think by July 1st we'll be up and running with probation.
The judges picking these people?
The probationers? Yeah. I mean, we can't go make somebody be on probation. The courts have to order probation.
So you're going to suggest certain people be?
I don't know at this point we're even going to suggest certain people. I don't know.
Who's going to do the research and say to the
So
judge?
is there anything else we need to know about the contract?
I think.
I have a question.
You bet.
Okay, I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm sitting here seeing contract hours 1498, and I'm seeing projected or service hours of last year 2166. So I guess the question, if this same scenario is playing out across the county, with all the cities that you work with, are we overworking and demanding too much of the department?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Well, please go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine. That's one question I have. Is this a reason why your officers are leaving? We're requiring too much of them.
I don't think that's the case. And to be honest, every community that we contract with is, if you look at percentages, they're well over 200% of the hours that they're contracting for. But what that really means is who's not getting the service that should be provided is the unincorporated county. Because if we're spending all of our time in our contract cities, time's give somewhere, so we're not necessarily providing the service to the unincorporated county, the Forest Service, the canyons that we should be providing because we're spending all of our time in the cities. Do we need more help? Yes, we do. We could hire some more people and certainly keep them busy, but I don't believe that's the problem. I haven't had any of the deputies come to us and tell us they're overworked. As a sheriff and the administrator, I got to make sure that we're providing the same level of service to the whole county and not just to the cities that we contract with.
I have one more question to ask you.
Yeah.
So, in your explanation, if I understood it correctly, the enforcement side of the sheriff's department plus the probationary side of the sheriff's department. I'm very familiar with one individual who has been a repeat offender, and I'm just wondering if your resources are being best utilized by trying to be the probationary reformer, encouraging reforming, if that ought to be some separate type entity, let our sheriffs do the enforcement and countywide, and tremendous amount of hours.
You're absolutely right with the amount of hours it's gonna take, and that's why we're gonna really limit the number of probationers that we'll take on board. What we have done with probation, and the county understands, there's who funding this, is probation won't take anything away from the enforcement side of it because we've hired brand new bodies to do that. Now, other states, they don't have state probation at all, and all the probation is run through the counties. And what I've talked to California, I've talked to Texas, and I've talked to Florida, who all have county probation. They don't have state probation. What they've told us what happened in their communities is if you can take care of that small group of offenders who's causing the most problems, it'll reduce your numbers of calls for service from your patrol guys, and the goal would be to have patrol guys not spend all their time on the same 300 people. They can use their time for the whole county. It's also made a big impact on the jail. I mean, we have people that come to jail for 6 hours. That's a waste of the jail's time to have somebody come do weekends in jail. 60 people show up, they spend half the weekend sitting in the lobby waiting to get booked. They go inside of a jail cell for 8 hours just to let them back out so we can release them on Sunday afternoon. I think with probation is going to be, if it works like I think it's going to work, it should relieve a lot of pressure all through our organization if it's done right and done well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Another thing with probation too is they're all deputies. These aren't civilian positions, and that theoretically puts 5 more people back out in the community. So if there is a patrol problem, probationers and a home visit can come certainly second to a problem that's happening real time on patrol. So it does put 5 extra bodies out on the road, but their primary focus would be on probation.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. The last thing I'll bring up, and this is just for discussion, is there's been a lot of talk about doing a countywide impound facility for animals. Now, we also contract with a lot of the communities for animal control services. Our goal is 2 parts. One is for the public safety side, and through the county, we're working on that right now to build an impound facility for all the animal control throughout the whole county. That would be Logan City, Cache County, Smithfield, North Park. All of them would be one central location to impound animals for law enforcement. We would love it, and we're hoping that it works, that we can do the impound piece, and if we don't find the owners to the animals within our 5 days by statute that we have to hold them, we would pass them off to the Humane Society and let them do what they do best and find homes and shelters and all the things that we should be doing as an animal control service. This has been a slow project, slow coming. It's going to be slow getting off the ground if we even get it off the ground this year. But the county's seeing growing pains, not like every other city's not feeling the growing pains of our population. And the county council and the county executive and I, we truly see the need in our community now that the county should be the ones who support and sponsor and offer that services to all the cities in, all the residents in Cache County. So as of right now, I think we're still on board to build that impound facility. And as it gets closer, I'll certainly keep everybody involved. What I'd really like to do, once I know that we're going to get building, is work with all of the cities and put together a commission or a board, and we can discuss fees and ordinances and all the things that affect everybody. So whatever we do at that facility we have down there, every community that we contract with or work with is on board and all agree to do the same thing countywide. That one's a little slow coming.
What if they don't?
What's that?
What if they don't?
Some of the cities may not come. I know.
They don't now.
Yeah, and they may not. I mean, Hiram, for example, goes to Blacksmith Fork Vet. They may choose just to stay doing what they're doing. Richmond goes to North Cache Vet. They may absolutely choose to stay doing what they're doing. Just because we build it doesn't mean everybody has to use the facility. It's there for the community. We'll focus with our contracts, and the ones who want to use it, they're welcome to use it.
The choice is the cities, but they have to make a choice.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they have to make a choice. They could stay with North Cache Vet and 2 years from now say, hey, we want to come to you. So,
but they have to pick North Cache Vet or Blacksmith Fork or whoever.
yeah,
And they have to pick a place to impound.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to work that. If they don't come with us, they're gonna have to go work out their own arrangements with vet clinics that they're currently using. And that'll be up to each individual city to decide what
So you're
service they
talking
want
about
to use.
taking on Logan City as well.
Yes.
Logan City and some other parts of the Cache Valley have a big problem with cats,
Mhm.
felines.
Correct.
You gonna take that on too?
Yes, we will, and I'll tell you how we'll take that on.
Can I quote you?
You can, and I'll tell you, and I've told some of the other mayors have asked the exact same question, and it's not really any different than we're currently doing right now. If that's a function that any of the cities want to do with the cats, they're welcome to do that, we're welcome to take them, but the city who's implementing that program is gonna pay the cost to do the spade, the neutering, all the things that go along with the cats. We'll be happy to house them, but each community that wants to do that is gonna have to do, or gonna be stuck with the bill that's gonna go through that. So that's it's not really any differently than what we do with our animal control now. The county's not gonna take the entire cat program and pay for it. Cities have their own ordinances and they have their own wishes, and if the cities want to do that, we're happy to accommodate that, but it'll be
But they gotta pay.
it'll be at their expense. And I've already had that discussion with Logan City, and they 100% understand how that's going to work, because they will be the biggest client. And if that's what they want to do, we're happy to accommodate it. Taking a lot of time. Any other questions I can answer for anybody with contracts or projects or what we're doing moving forward?
Sheriff, you were telling me about I forget the name of it. It was a program where you brought new people in, hired more deputies, 3-year program, subsidized.
It's the
federal money, I forget.
It's the Cops Fast program, and we looked at that, and I think it's a great idea, and it worked great. It's the 4th year that the hammer drops. So you and I had discussed that, and it looked great for the first 3 years until the 4th year, when you'd be responsible not only for what you're currently doing, but another 75 or 80 grand on top of that, because that grant ran out. And part of the grant requires that you have to keep that in place for at least a year after the grant ends. And I don't think right now, I think if we do things right with the contract, the county's got to do their part with hiring more staff. I think we can add the staff we need right now without tying anybody to one of these long-term contracts.
If you have a growing community, you know you're gonna grow.
Yeah.
And I know cities that are gonna grow faster than
And they are, and
Providence, it might make sense.
Yeah, and it may, and I think we look at that as it grows. But I think right now, with the current staff, we could always use a few more guys. But to say that we need 10 more people to patrol would be a lie. 3 or 4 more guys would be a big help, and we could give the service all over the county without maybe having all these discussions about hours. But our calls for service, they're going up with across the board, in your city, with all the entire county. Just because of the population growth, we're seeing an increase in the number of calls for service that we respond to, but there's nothing that goes straight in the air and think panic mode that we got to get 10 more guys to do this. We're growing, the community's growing, and our office is growing with it. Slower than probably should, but we're in great shape overall. Any worries with the service that we provide or the number of people we have right now?
Mayor, I have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Sheriff, just the last one just came to me as you were speaking. Sorry, I'm getting a little feedback, so I'll my question relates to, you said calls are going up. I did appreciate the report that I think one of your assistants said regarding incidents and citations and such. Is there a report that you could hold that we could see what these calls going up over time in the last several years? While we do see that over the course of the year, we don't kind of have a historical context here. I think that would be interesting if you've got that data, so we can kind of see those calls, over the last 5 years or something.
Oh, absolutely. We could. That's an easy one.
Right, that'd be super. My other question relates to animal control services in the contract. That's a separate resolution for tonight, but I'm guessing you're going to speak to that or can speak to that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those services are contracted regular business hours, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, with 24-hour emergency services. Can you just walk me through the process? So that if a neighbor has an incident with the dog, or I bring up the dog, could be a cat for that matter, but a barking dog on the weekend or the evenings, does that call in it going to the sheriff's office to dispatch, and the notes are taken, and then animal control is dispatched during the next regular business hours to go and address the issue? Is that the process by which that works?
Well, I'm gonna have Lieutenant Barchi discuss that, because he's been working on that animal control stuff more detailed than I have. So I'll give you Lieutenant Barchi.
Hello, everybody. Hope you can hear me. So our standard operating procedure is, if you were to call in right now, we have 3 animal control officers. Last year, I think you guys recognized that we had talked about we didn't feel comfortable with the level of service that we were providing. We hired an additional animal control person to meet the needs. Currently, we provide about 20, we work until about 10 o'clock at night, 3 or all days of the week. We have that coverage available so that they're available. What's happening with calls is our barking dogs or dogs at large, when they call dispatch, our guys are if we don't have animal control on, our guys are being dispatched to that. Some of the occasions when they talk to dispatch with most other cities, and we are seeing some bleed over to our response plan, the sheriff was very clear that we should be responding, including utilizing our deputies, to all animal control problems and all calls for service at all times. However, we are seeing dispatch on occasion telling people, can you hold on to the dog until tomorrow when animal control comes on, because they're training a bunch of people, so they don't understand that there might be different response protocols. We are seeing some bleed over into our responses for that. I couldn't give you exact stats on how often that is happening.
Oh, that's fine, Lieutenant. Thank you very much. It sounds like we're getting pseudo 24-hour service regarding those animal things. It's just a matter of who's on call to go ahead and deal with the issue. And sometimes those are getting bumped to the next day, depending on what the issue is. Is that a fair summary?
That is a very fair summary.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate the work you do.
Thank you.
So is it time for me to make a motion?
Go for it.
We're not voting.
Because I've been really wanting to say this.
What's that?
I move that we approve resolution 007.
Okay, we haven't got to item 3 yet.
A resolution approving the interlocal agreement between Cache County and Providence
Okay,
City for law enforcement services.
Who planned that?
We gotta make sure everybody's questions got answered. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Let's move on to item number 3. So now you can say.
We need a vote.
No, we need to move on. Item number 3 is a resolution.
Go now.
Item number 3, law enforcement contract. Item number 4, animal control contract. Item number 2 is just.
But there's a motion in the second on the table. I don't understand why we don't have a vote if there's a motion in the second.
No. Item number 2 was the sheriff's report. That's as far as we got. So 3 and 4 are
Well, I
resolutions.
just was really excited about it.
All right. Do I have a motion on item number 3? Council members? Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, I move that we approve resolution 007-2020 law enforcement contract.
Okay, do I have a second on 007?
Second that.
Is that Janelle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion from Councilwoman Kirk, second from Councilwoman Seeley. Further discussion on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 4. Who wants to make a motion on that? That's Animal Control Services Contract 008.
Not quite.
Go ahead, Carrie.
This is not as cool as 007.
Go ahead, Carrie. You only get one chance a year.
I move that we approve item number 4, resolution 008, 2020 animal control contract.
Okay, motion from Councilwoman Kirk. Do I have a second? Second from
I'll second, Josh.
Councilman Paulson. All in favor on the animal services contract?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you. We're good.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time very much.
Hey Chad, one day I need a job at dispatch.
I know, they're always hiring.
I'm gonna apply right now. I'm gonna get on.
Call me and I'll hook you up.
You don't like your job?
I'm like so intrigued
She
by
likes dispatch.
it. It's so much fun.
The last time you came, you kind of got stiffed on your tour.
I'll take another tour.
I'll
They
give
have
you another
limited
tour.
access, you won't get a tour anymore.
Well, the last time a horrible thing happened.
I
so
know it was a bad night for you, but
I'll
you were
help
very
you.
gracious.
I'll give you another one.
Okay. That was exciting. Item number 5, Resolution 009, 2020 bid award. Providence City Council will consider adoption. Resolution awarding bid for Spring Creek Parkway. This is the Spring Creek crossing. We call it the West Crossing. Rob, you want to give us an intro? Explain the details. Give us your recommendation.
Yes, Max and I, and Ryan, I suppose to a degree too, we all went through the bid tabulations and discussed them. The low bid didn't do the unit pricing, which is actually a very important part of the process for many different reasons, and so we didn't continue looking at that one a whole lot. So we moved on to looking at the other bids, and the second low bid was Cache Valley Excavation, and I don't personally have a lot of experience overseeing his work, that company's work, I should say. I have seen some, and I just don't have any reason not to recommend that bid being the next low bid. I did speak with Shane, as the owner of that company. He was confident and okay with the numbers that he put on his bid, and is more than willing and ready to accept the award if you guys award it tonight.
Everybody have the bid page? It's 2 pages. Looks like that. Anybody have any questions about the bids, about the choice?
We went through and we looked at the bid tabulations as far as trying to make sure that everybody done their math right and kind of did the comparisons when it came to, the different line items. There's obviously different weird red flags between the different line items. We kind of looked at those closely, and I quizzed Cache Valley Excavation about whatever red flags Max and I had related to items in his particular bid. And I guess, long story short, I felt a lot more comfortable, and I think after listening to him and his explanations on any concerns I had with his line items.
Rod?
Yes.
I have a question regarding one of the bigger differences. Seems like two large, one particular. It's the surface restoration and earthwork. Seems to be somewhat of a difference there. Can you tell me why there's such a spread on his versus some of the others? What was under the understanding of doing that? Is that reseeding? Is that storing up with, so that in times of, we come into fall, it rains, it is going to wash, it create ruts? What is that? Explain that to me.
Yes, the number as far as what Cache Valley Excavation has on there kind of falls in line with the average of those who didn't go outside of the average, so to speak. Like Rups is way low on that. What that entails is literally revegetating the area that gets disturbed for both stormwater purposes and the fact that we're up against the wetlands. The unit prices, the what's the word?
Unit of measure.
Unit of measure, yeah, kind of goes into detail as to what that really entails to make sure that it all gets revegetated to its original state or better, or whatever is required for the mitigation strategies on the wetlands. That answer. There's also restoration of the charter school's grass to some degree. It includes things like that to bring things back to a good standing when it's all said and done.
And is it protecting the surface so it doesn't wash, create ruts, that sort of thing?
Correct.
Okay. one that kind of surprises me a little bit is we have quite a few different measurements on curb and gutter. And I would think for what we're dealing with, I'm surprised that it's not more standard. But I guess you don't have any feel for that too much. I guess they just have somebody that's going to come in and do that for them, or else their company's going to do it.
Correct. I would assume most all of these particular companies that bid on this would be using subcontractors for the concrete work. And so it's hard to say who they've contacted to give them the numbers to get her done. And hopefully they did their homework. And it works out well for them.
And in your mind, is there any contingencies that are not addressed here? One of the reasons I've heard of some contractors that they have low bids is because they know there's going to be change orders. When the change orders come through, that's when they really pile it on and make their money. I've known that to be true when I was working with the city. Do you anticipate any significant change orders in this, or do you feel like we've pretty well got it covered to get this done?
I think we pretty well got it covered. There was an addendum to the original bid that covered a red flag that could have been a significant change order. I hope we've covered our bases really well when it comes to change orders. I don't foresee any big changes. So contingencies, yes, things do happen when it comes to, especially when you're working near the wetlands and whatnot. If we end up with some soft spots and having to do some extra repairs, and sometimes, weather is a direct factor when it comes to change orders, when it comes to soft spots and making sure that we get a firm base underneath this road. And so weather can play a bad part with change orders on occasion, but we can hope for good weather and fast work that helps maintain the subgrade as they put it in. But I don't foresee anything major at this point in time.
Is this bridge going to be a precast concrete, a pipe with ring walls? What's it going to be?
Well, this particular crossing isn't the actual canal. It's actually just a stream. It'll just be a concrete pipe culvert. So it's I believe it's 30-inch pipe, concrete pipe that we're putting under for that extra little spring stream that enters Spring Creek.
Oh, this is not Spring Creek?
No, this one actually doesn't take the full volume of Spring Creek Canal. This is just the spring that comes over from kind of the Marlin Hoff property direction.
Oh, okay, I'm with you, Rob. Yep, I understand that. Sorry, yep.
Isn't that the tail end of Blacksmith Works system?
Yeah, I'm with you.
It is one of the tail ends, yes.
Okay, that won't be much water washing through there. Okay.
Okay, anybody or any more questions?
You mentioned unit price is important in evaluating the bids. Can you explain?
Well, unit prices is kind of what helps us
So I
check
thought
their numbers.
somebody would have asked, why don't we pick Naylor because they're the lowest bidder?
Without having the unit pricing, it makes it hard for us to guess where their actual numbers came from, to double check their numbers, so to speak. But in the ability for us to award change orders and really get a hold on the change orders when they come, to have this up front with unit pricing is really what keeps a decent lid, so to speak, on the ultimate change order costs.
So what you're saying with the unit costs, when there are change orders, you're going to hold them to that unit cost.
Correct.
It's
So
on their
there's-
bid sheet.
So
So they're not just bidding a unit cost for this contract. If a change order comes along, they would actually bid on a change order if it happens.
Right, and generally those change orders have some sort of reflection on something that they've got a unit price. Once in a while not, but in the example that I used with the soft spots, if the granular borrow gets wrecked and they have to take some out, add some, and recompact, we've already got the unit price that they quoted for the extra material. So
Where's Naylor Construction from? They're close, I assume.
where
Are they
Yeah.
local?
Who are they? I mean, there's no mobilization hardly, so
he is very, very local. He actually lives on Hillsborough,
And do they just not know how to do the bid?
I think they just skipped that
I
step.
mean, would you ever just say, you forgot to do this part? So that we can actually look at their unit pricing and consider their bid?
It's pretty standard to reject one if they don't put unit pricing. Almost always unit pricing is the overriding. So if there's a wrong number that gets put in, the calculation falls back to unit price. So
Well,
say-
no, I understand that. I'm
Okay.
just saying, why would you say, excuse me, you missed this part, or did they forget to send that in? Or that's what I'm saying is, would you ever go back and ask, wait a minute, we're missing something here? And because they might very well have it. Or do we just don't?
in the
You
10
send it
years I did bidding, you never saw that.
in. This mistake? Is
Never.
that a mistake?
That's a huge mistake.
That's just a
Elizabeth.
red flag for what could happen if you were.
Absolutely.
It's unfortunate.
Absolutely. If they can't get the bid right, are you really sure they'll get the job right?
Yep, good point.
If they can't do the bid, at that point, it is extremely common to consider it non-responsive if they haven't put the numbers in the unit price.
Good.
We need a motion on this? Need a motion. Need a motion on item number, what's that?
I would make a motion,
Okay, would you?
I would make a motion that we approve extending the contract to Cache Valley Excavation for the price of for the bid price.
Motion from Councilman Smith, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilwoman Kirk. Further discussion? Rob, any more you want to add?
No.
I have a question. When are they planning to start?
When I talked to Cache Valley Excavation about it, he had some reservations when it came to a lot of other bids that are out there right now, and so he was trying to keep himself from getting too involved with getting a lot of other work on his plate until this council meeting to see how things played out for him. So hopefully, I don't know exactly where he went with that, but I'm optimistic that he was hopeful that he would get this bid and didn't take on more than he could chew since it's been a couple weeks since. Been more than a couple weeks.
He's always a low bidder. He's going to have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Further discussion?
I missed the time frame on that, I'm sorry.
Well, it's,
I got,
as far as giving him the award to bid and a start date, there is still that stream alteration permit that might hold him up from really doing a lot of work on the high water aspects of Spring Creek Canal. That stipulation in the stream alteration permit has. But I would assume that he's been anticipating potentially getting this and hasn't got himself into a lot of other work that will keep him from starting probably the first week of July.
Josh, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, it's more of a formality. The resolution under second set of bullets, bullet number 2, says the mayor, public works director, and city recorder is hereby authorized to execute the associated contract documents. I'm just wondering if that's boilerplate language or if the city manager ought to be included that in these going forward. This is the first one we've encountered, so I don't know what our protocol is.
When it comes to contract documents, generally, Josh, particularly on bids, it's the mayor and then the.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you. So we added language to the city code to allow for an impact fee for wastewater treatment. And the way we do this, the actual fee itself is in a separate part of the city code. So we can adopt it separately. So this is just a resolution to add the fee to the schedule of impact fees. Anything else I need to?
Are you ready for a motion?
I'm just, now we're at, okay. All right, so now we need a motion on item number 6.
I would make a motion on resolution 10/2020 that we approve the
Motion from Councilman Scott, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Councilwoman Ack. Discussion. Scarlett, anything you want to add, or?
No, if you looked in the chart, or excuse me, if you looked in the impact fee facility plan, we just used that very amount that was discussed as part of the enactment of the impact fee wastewater treatment, or the wastewater treatment impact fee. So that's where the amount came from. It came right out of that impact fee facilities plan and analysis.
$2,433. Council, any further questions, discussion, comments? Okay. I call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. All right. So we have council reports, and we want to go through council assignments. Who'd like to go first? Was that you that fell off?
I'll go first.
It was me.
Was that you that fell off the chair, or the?
I'm having a problem here, but I'm good.
So it's not you, it's your phone.
It's not me. I had a problem.
All right, who said they'd go first? Is that you, Janelle? Or
Carrie,
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I have nothing to report.
What about the youth council?
We are discontinuing meetings, and Scarlett already shared that we are not going to be doing the Easter Meet the Bunny event. We'll just hold off on everything with the youth council for now.
Any fiber comments?
No, I hope Ryan's working on numbers.
Okay. Okay, who's next?
Go ahead, Brett.
Go ahead, Josh.
Why does it matter? Okay. Barry? I did. All right. Christine, jump in on this. Oh, very good. Jump in on this because you and I worked quite a bit on our new, what do we call it? Our
General plan.
And we've gone through with Ryan, spent about 3 different sessions with him, worked through some changes on the plan, and we feel like that we've made some positive steps, and we've feel like we've got a plan that, and as Ryan mentioned in his email, it's there, and you can take a look at it, and possibly in April we'll take a vote on it. Please study it between now and then. But Christine, what do you contribute to that? You say what you think.
Well, I really enjoyed the process. We sure got a lot done with the subcommittee rather than the whole group of us. It was great, and we just kept reminding ourselves to look at the 30,000 foot view of what the general plan was. A lot of the general plan was too specific, Ryan, and so we really did try to take out all of those things that weren't up at this level that we're supposed to be looking at. So as you read it and you think it's more simplified, that's the purpose and the whole of it. But I enjoyed working with Brent, and I feel really good about it. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I do too, Christine. I think with Ryan and you, it was very enjoyable to work with you, and we put some productive time together. Anyway, you'll get to see it at our next council, or it's online. It's an email from Ryan, so study it through. My next item is emergency management. I've attended 3 county meetings on emergency management, and as you have seen, we've got a few emergencies ahead of us, and I have come come back and talk with Ryan, I kind of believe that I can help be a facilitator to establish an emergency management group here in Providence, but I don't think with I'm only on this council for 4 years. This emergency plan is going to continue on long after I'm gone. And I think we need a structured organization within the city that's going to be able to continue to further emergency management. As I talked to Ryan, we're very fortunate within the city, and they would include everybody in the city, would be the structure of the LDS Church. Because the state presidents have a new plan, and I'm going to a meeting on that if they haven't canceled it on April 12th. They may have canceled it. At that time, the plan is that everybody will check their own home first and then report to the state center. And you take whatever you have to contribute to the state center, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a nurse, whether you're somebody that can inspect a building, whether you've been through CERT, whatever you've done, and you have that skill and ability, you take that to the state president, and therein they will look at the community as a whole and be able to send the resources out. Now, what's our role as a city? Well, we have our own problems. We have our water, sewer, we have possibly other areas we can assist. So we're not going as a city with our personnel to door to door unless there's an issue with something we have to deal with. You're going to have your own problems, but there's a manpower out there that's looking to help all the community throughout the community, which a lot of communities do not have, especially in larger cities. We're very fortunate in this area. Now, the county will, and the state will provide the training, and they'll also help with funding. If we want an emergency generator, if we want, I know we've had ham operators in the past. I know that we've had people that can communicate one with another. These state presidents will need to communicate with each other and divide up resources and stuff like that. So this is all an organizational structure that we need to put together. Not that we need an EOC center, but it would be able to help to coordinate with some others, because we cannot rely upon Logan. We cannot rely upon Cache County. We're going to, if something major happens, like across our area, we had an earthquake like we did this morning, we're going to have to rely upon ourselves probably for up to 72 hours. That means that we are going to possibly not have an ambulance or a fire department in this community for a period of time. I won't say how long, but yeah, we've got to be on our own for a while. And so we have to be able to have sufficient supplies. Now, we're also in this emergency management for this virus, coronavirus. And there again, we don't have the resources to do anything about that, but we have to understand the resources and make sure we shelter in place and we take and disconnect socially and things like that. They have set up a triage at the hospital. It's on the east side where the emergency entrance is. You have to go through triage to get into the hospital. One person is only allowed in the hospital with a patient at any one time now. You can't take more than that in, and they hold you out. So it's just bringing stuff like this to people's attention, have them understand where we're at. We just need to help coordinate and put this structure in place. So that's my report on emergency management. Ryan is going to start attending meetings with me. I really think it moves on to somebody other than a councilman who's there for only 4 years, but I'll certainly do all I can to help while I'm here. Okay, so I've done that. Now, the other concern I have, I was looking at Ryan's organizational chart, and I did not see in that organizational chart where the city attorney comes in. Everything in the organizational chart that I can see comes under Ryan, other than the top part of it. But I'm wondering where the city attorney comes in. Having a concern for the money we spend for attorneys and legal fees and stuff like that, my concern is that when we have city matters, and I think Ryan's a good contact person for that, but But when we have city managers, city things that need to be managed, that we need as a council, because we've been charged with controlling the purse strings, that needs to come before the council. We need to understand and possibly, as a council, have a majority vote to seek legal counsel or not. And so somehow I want to understand that. I don't see it in the organizational chart. I talked to Ryan about it. Somehow we as a council need to address that. That's my report.
Brent, I got a question. Just you mentioned the LDS Church and the ward and stake organization. I do know there are parts of this valley that the ward and stake connections are regularly exercised, communicated. I do know there's parts of Logan, you mentioned ham radio operators. Every Sunday, the wards are connected, they communicate with the stake organization. And they've got people that work on educating people in their ward on emergency management, things like that. I was asked to volunteer to be a ham radio operator for the ward we live in, but the whole structure never went anywhere.
Well, what's changing is it's leaving the ward. The ward will have emergency people to help organize things, but it's going just to the stake presidents. What it'll be is the stake president. It's going to, now, I haven't been to the organizational meeting, but I have talked with what's his name? I forgot his name. But anyway, he's been attending these emergency management meetings, and I've been talking to him, and the church has changed their structure. So I don't have a real good feel for it right now, but I understand your concern, because it comes and it goes and comes and goes. Some do an amazing job and some don't. But nevertheless, I think it's maybe we can help as a city by keeping this in the forefront of the stake presidents. We don't have to go to every ward. We can go to the stake presidents and deal with that, because that's where the church is going, because that person is the high priest group leader of the state. He's the presiding high priest of the state, and he's carrying that responsibility. And that's where the church is placing this. So I don't have all the answers, but hopefully when I can get some more answers, I can bring it back to you, Mayor. And it's wonderful that you're serving as a ham operator. That would be great. Service, yes, wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Who's next?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
So I just sat down with Ryan, I think yesterday, maybe. I've lost my days. This has been the longest week, right, guys? It's only Wednesday. The survey for the city celebration has indicated that September is definitely the better month to do that. I spoke with Ryan. My goal is to get some citizen involvement and get some volunteers for the certain things. So that's what I need to do now. First, I was going to ask the council. I see that Janelle signed up to volunteer. Are there any of you that have any interest in helping with that? Are you on your own committees and just don't want to bother with it? If you do want to help with that, I would love to have your input on any part of it by the raise of hands. Janelle, Carrie, Josh. All right, okay. Thank you. So we're going to be picking a date in September and going from there. If anybody knows of any good, I would like to do a band or a concert of some type. In my mind, I can see a country western band and teaching line dancing and swing dancing. But this is just what I would like to do. Does anyone know of anyone I could chat? You guys sing country music?
I have a lead for you, a band that we hired pretty good a couple years ago. I'll have to.
Okay, so if you might be thinking of that and maybe shoot me your leads or information, then we'll see where that goes. So. That is all.
Christina, Ryan, I would love to just just out of curiosity, see the results of the survey? I don't know if there's a link.
Well, we're still getting some of the results, but
I'm sure.
I think Ryan can send them out, right?
Yeah, a couple of things we're still waiting for is being able to get emails to our sports site and sending it out in the newsletter. So we haven't sent it in either one of those, but we do have over almost 120 responses, which is great. So
Overwhelming that they wanted in September. That's the thing that I do know for sure. That was clear. It was like everybody picked September.
Isn't that interesting and great information?
I loved the survey, and I think
Ryan, thank you.
we'll still get some
for
good
sending
information
that out.
from it. Ironically, too, everyone still wants a parade. To me, that's just, I was surprised by that.
Not everyone, I put no.
Well, I know, but you'll be surprised that was like the largest thing that everyone chose, right? It was the most important thing.
yeah, over 2/3. I'd be happy to send the report out. I just, because we're still gaining results, I have gone over it with a few of them as they've been in my office. Carrie just hasn't been in my office, so I'd love to have you there and show you. But yeah, happy to show you anytime. So.
And in regards to the parade, I had a thought, and some of my thoughts are dumb. I get it. I'm happy for you guys to just tell me that. To me, the parade needs to be more than just throwing candy out of the back of a truck. When I was a kid in my town, we had bike parades, and we all decorated our bikes and rode around the block. And I look forward to that all summer. Do you guys ever do that?
If you'll still do that, Christina, I'll come for sure.
Will you? You decorate your bike?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking I would rather have more of a theme parade, and I would love your creative minds on something like that. So that's it.
Do we need a Providence royalty?
You, Brent.
Are you volunteering?
Well,
I
that's
was
one.
actually thinking Christina was the queen.
Yeah, I am the queen. Now I'm in charge. So that's the other thing too, is
Exactly.
in regards to a float, Providence doesn't generally send floats to other parades. Other cities have floats. I know we've done them in the past. It's been how many years since we've done a float, and I am not a parade person. I am not a
The youth council has a float.
Do they? Good. So anyway, it's just, we'll have to decide as a committee. I've had people volunteer. We'll have to decide as a committee if we want to spend our money on something like that or not. Maybe we use our money somewhere else. So.
Maybe we need a grand marshal
Okay, I'll make that note.
or a senior couple.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I actually love that. Honoring someone.
Who would we honor?
There's a lot of people I think we could.
I have somebody in mind.
Yeah, narrowing it down will be the hard part.
I have, if it's, I would nominate Glade Davis, former mayor who's 94 now, Brad.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, him and Carol, that'd be great.
Well, I just would like to, like I said, we're doing a parade. I'd like to get a theme. I would like to do a few more things. Candy's good, but.
That's the only reason.
Or dress up like pioneers. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Something historical, maybe.
Throw sauerkraut.
I'm excited, Christina.
That'll be good.
Have a theme each year or something, yeah.
Well, what I would like to establish is a tradition.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done. Thanks, guys.
the businesses in the community get involved.
What?
I would like to see the businesses in the community be involved in the parade.
Okay.
I'd like to see the citizens get involved in putting the committees together and making these celebrations happen, rather than paying city staff overtime to put these
Yeah,
things
it's not
on.
fair for staff, and we will. Absolutely. Ryan has educated me on how that all goes together. So we appreciate Ryan's advice.
Okay. Who's next? Janelle?
Sammy?
Yes.
Okay. I don't really have anything to report too much. Josh and I met with Ryan and we worked on our, sorry, I'm getting feedback on my speaker. We worked on our recreation cost recovery methodology and had a few adjustments there that I think are productive. We're still tweaking it a little bit and refining what events fall in each level. Anything you want to add to that, Josh?
Nope, I think that covers it. Ryan sent an updated copy. I want to thank him and Scarlett for their help with that. I think after one more meeting, we'll have that ready for the group to go ahead and consider some changes next time.
Yeah, I think so too. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to report, except for the districts are working hard to get everybody's school functioning, but that doesn't relate to the city.
Okay. Josh?
That's it.
Well, legislative session is over, which is nice. You know, I don't know if you've seen, generally, I think ULCT and the bills that they were advocating for went really well. You know, all the hot button ones, you know, didn't pass. You can actually, it's nice to go on your website and see which of those hot bills, and you can quickly sort through and see those. One that did pass that you may have heard about was affordable housing, where the legislature appropriated $10 million for essentially private investment, affordable and moderate income housing. So something to keep track of there. My other two groups I serve on, the Chamber of Commerce and EDC, they've had some meetings, those have been canceled because of concerns with coronavirus. I think EDC is probably, you know, economic development is something we're going to be watching pretty closely over the next few months. You know, what's happening at the national level with the stock market and investment and what's happening at the local level of closures, it will be really significant. And I think we need to remember that, you know, we get a fair amount of money through sales tax revenue as well. And when those businesses aren't functioning well, that sales tax money doesn't come in, and we would expect to not see some of that coming forward. So I guess I'm hopeful that despite all the quarantine and social isolation methods, that we can keep the economy going and do a better job in the next few months. So I believe EDC Utah's been sending out some emails about that and been concerned. I don't know if anybody else, did anyone else get to attend the governor's talk yesterday with ULCT and then today with Mitt Romney? Mary, you were probably on that, weren't you?
Yesterday, that was the one with Mitt Romney.
Oh. One today was with Mitt Romney, with councilmen and mayors throughout the state. Mitt talked a lot about some of the economic stimulus packages and things that the federal government is putting together. It sounds like a lot of that is still being formulated, but something we just need to keep an eye on. Some of the mayors, you know, have questions, just wanting to make sure local city governments weren't left out in that thought process when those things happen. So I found both of those discussions pretty helpful. And then I think, yeah, the other committee that I'm on with Janelle. So that's it for my report.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can I inject two more things?
Sure.
I forgot to mention meeting with the historical committee, and they are writing a book of got a commission going with a graduate student up at Utah State to write a history of the irrigation companies in Providence, and they're underway getting this project going over the next year. And the other thing I would just bring to your attention, I just got an announcement that the first 2 cases of coronavirus are here in the Cache Valley.
Yep. It's
That we know about.
CacheValleyDaily.com, and the 2 individuals are over 60. And that's all they'll tell us about it. There's one yesterday in Box Elder County. And
That would be me, I'm not over 60.
it seems that all of the three individuals were people that went down to Salt Lake and visited with friends or family. And Bear River Health thinks that that's where they picked it up. Okay. Ryan?
Most of my, is it me? Most of my items have been covered. We have had some good ones. I think each person that participated in a subcommittee, I think that worked out really well to be able to make progress there. A couple of things we're doing. We've gotten a subscription with OpenGov to be able to be more transparent with financials on our website, and as well as with budgeting software. We're also converting a lot of our files or our forms onto our website so that we can have more of that interaction from our public as we go through. At this point, there have been several cities that have done some kind of closures. We have not, as far as our offices are still open. We're still operating on our regular hours and being able to serve our residents. I know that some cities, even in the valley, have closed their doors or by appointment only, but at this point we haven't taken any of those kind of measures. We are monitoring, as Scarlett had mentioned, we are taking, trying to find some creative ways to be able to get through this coronavirus. One of the items, because of our crossing guards aren't crossing, we have assigned them to help us organize some things with the library, be able to get some of our storage organized there. So we are making progress in several different areas. One thing before we go to closed session, just open session item for 100 South. We did have a traffic safety engineer that reviewed the area, indicated what items we needed to install. All of those items have been installed. The payments have been made to the property owners. They have requested to have an ombudsman to come and so an appraiser from the ombudsman's office to come. That should come Monday. So as far as that goes, the road will be prepared to be opened in short order. So at that point, we don't have many other obstacles. I think all the obstacles have been removed. So anyway, that is what I would say. They're not necessarily legislative. I'd leave legislative to Chad if he wants to talk on legal side. That way he can. It's unfortunate the league has canceled the spring conference. We'll cancel all the rooms that we've made, but it will take some effort for us to be able to watch those. As Josh had mentioned, I think they come out with a list of bills that are effective to us, and I'll get with each one of you, or you can get with me and see how we can move forward on some of those bills. So anyway, I'll take it at that point. If you have any questions for me, I'll take it.
I've got one, Brandon. Regarding 100 South, who's the ultimate authority on opening that road? Where does that lie?
It's a really good question. At this point, my understanding is that the previous council has given direction to open it, so we've been going that way. But Chad, maybe you can assist that way. You've unmuted. Why don't you tell us?
I'm not sure how loud to talk. I got a bit of feedback. Can you hear me okay?
You sound fine.
Yeah.
So you asked the question, who's the ultimate authority on opening the road? I would say the answer to that is that the city council is the ultimate authority in all the decisions that are made throughout the process of anything the city does. So ultimately, it's you as a council. The decision was made quite some time ago by the city council to open the road, and so that's been our direction. From my perspective, it's been pretty obvious that this is that opening 100 South is best for the city, based on the engineering and the master plan and everything else that's been discussed. Obviously, that ultimately, the former city council that voted on this and decided to go through with it, made that decision, and that's what we've been working under.
I would request that on the next city council agenda, that there be a discussion to reconsider that decision. I know how I feel about it. I visited. I'm aware of the cost of it. I don't feel like we should discuss that now. It's not an agenda item, but I would like to add that to the agenda for the next city council to go ahead and take up. If there's another city council member, at least would be willing to have that discussion at the next city council meeting.
I would support that, Josh. I think it has some merit. I really do.
I'll just leave it at that. We've got 2 city council members. I'd at least like to discuss it. It sounds like that would be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. So you wanted to go into executive session to talk about 100 South.
I would like to know regarding the legal.
So do we need to do that?
understanding.
Do we need to do that first?
No, I don't think we need to do that now. I think I've requested what I wanted to request. I think that could be a public discussion at the next meeting. I would like to go into executive session, just know if there's any lingering legal issues related to 100 South, and I understand that would qualify for executive session.
Okay, I think that's important. We discuss about any lingering or alleged lingering issues. That's the way I describe it.
Yes, I believe they have to be legal, though. The item that I'm bringing up, whether or not we should open it, I don't think would fall under the
It's not illegal.
auspice
That's
of
not
an executive
illegal. You're right.
session. Is that right, Chad? Yeah, you're
Sorry,
muted.
I missed the question.
Well, so we're discussing whether or not to open 100 South. I don't believe that would qualify for an executive session item. Is that correct?
The discussion could be fall under executive session because there's clearly already litigation going.
Okay, I'd be happy to take it up today then, if that's appropriate.
It certainly could be discussed. As far as making and changing direction on what's already been decided, that would need to be an agenda item to discuss publicly at some point.
If it were to go to a vote, it would have to be in public, not an executive session.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess I would prefer to have the discussion in public, and avoid the legal issues of whether or not we should open it. In my mind, I'd like to be as open, as public, and transparent as that is possible.
So you want it for a vote, the next council meeting?
I would. That's what I'd suggest. Brent, are you of a similar opinion? We could vote. We can either affirm the previous council's vote, or we could decide to change that.
Well, my thoughts on this are, there were some parameters way back when this discussion was about having the funds to complete the road and all this sort of stuff when the road was open. And obviously that hasn't happened. And to just now go down and dirt the barriers and say vote over.
So what hasn't happened? I'm sorry, you said what hasn't happened?
Well, so my concern is, Mayor, that now we're my concern here, and I'm going to bring something that's important. Now we're deviating into the conversation of having the discussion, and this was not on the agenda.
Right.
And I worry that we've not properly notified the public that we're having this.
Right, I understand that, but Councilman Spence made a comment that this hasn't been discussed. So that's not on the agenda. That's not on the agenda, but it was on the agenda last year on 7 different occasions. We discussed 100 South.
I'm not saying it is, but we can't have that discussion now without properly notifying the public. So I'm just saying I would like to have it on the next agenda.
I think we need to go into executive session, and we need to cover some of the legal issues, because I think there's an enormous amount of misunderstanding and misinformation out there. And we'll let Ron Brian lead that
I'm
discussion.
fine with that as long as I'm fine with that as long as the executive session doesn't deviate from those topics that are most appropriate for an executive session and shouldn't be public. And if I hear a foul in here, I'm gonna move that we move out of executive session because it should be a public discussion that shouldn't be closed.
Why don't we move on and finish the council reports?
I'm done.
Because we gotten off topic. As everybody knows, I attend the county council meetings, often get called on to comment, sometimes on behalf of more than just Providence City. The COG meeting is scheduled for Monday, 23rd of next week. It has been indefinitely canceled for right now, pending reschedule. Mayor's Association had dinner last Saturday. We had Lloyd Berenson from Bear River Health give us an update on what the health department's working on. Wastewater Treatment Rate Committee has not met. Solid Waste Advisory Board was supposed to meet this Monday. That meeting was canceled as well. I'll comment on the last one. This whole plastic bag issue has been up in the air. But there's quite a bit of evidence that recycled, reusable bags carry a lot of bacteria and viruses. So we may hear a change in direction on this whole thing. Okay. All right. Do an executive? Okay. All right. Let's move on to executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session. All in favor?
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.